I'd like to take the opportunity today to talk about suicide and depression and how they can overlap with bipolar and create some pretty catastrophic statistics and experiences for people that are exceedingly difficult for the person suffering as well as everyone around them, the caregivers and friends. And I want to provide some information on how to have conversations about suicide with people that might be feeling like they have lost all hope and nothing will ever get better. So I have a variety of information here that I'm going to be paging through and sharing with all of you into a coherent model of ways of working with people. So first off, someone that is feeling suicidal, a psychotherapist would call it having suicidal ideation, and they're thinking about it. Their feelings might be any variety of affect, even to the point of just blank or not feeling anything anymore. And in that state of being, they're going to start to you know, put out some different signals to the universe that they're not doing so well. And our job as caregivers, friends, family, is to pay attention to these signals. So when we see these different invitations for some sort of conversation, to pick up on those invitations and explore with them what that means. So these invitations can be different things, physical, words, feelings, or even actions. I'm just going to go through a few different indicators that somebody might be considering suicidal actions, when carrying out a plan and all of that. So first off, if someone starts to give away their possessions, significant mementos that would mean a lot to the person, and yet they seem to be getting rid of them. They could start to withdraw from their friends, their family, school and work, just isolating, which is often, a symptom of depression. They can lose interest in their hobbies and sports and leisure. We call that anhedonia. They can start to drink more, use more drugs. Their behavior can become more reckless and impulsive, almost as if they're, unconsciously moving towards that suicide. They can start self-mutilating, which can be completely separate from suicidal stuff. It can be a coping mechanism, but it can also be a sign of going down that dark path, that spiral. And there could be some other extreme changes in behavior. So those actions, if the person is doing those things, to explore that with them, those invitations. Other things that you can look for are different words that the person is saying. Here are a few examples, including, all of my problems will end soon. No one can do anything to help me now. Now I know what they were going through. I just can't take it anymore. I am a burden to everyone. I can't do anything right, and I can't think straight anymore. So those are some things that people that are feeling suicidal can start to say. And so to take the time to ask them, what does that mean? Or can you tell me more about that? And then there are some physical things that can change. There can be a lack of interest in appearance, perhaps not showering as much, or starting to notice that they have BO, or different, not taking care of their hair. They can have a change in their sex life and the level of interest that they have. Their sleep can kind of go out the window, whether it's hypersomnia, sleeping excessively, or insomnia, not being able to sleep, etc. And then their appetite or their weight can also fluctuate, go up and down, and have some other physical health complaints, different somatic symptoms. And then something that can be a little bit harder to catch sometimes, but if you're emotionally attuned to the person, their feelings can be desperate, angry, guilty, worthless, lonely, sad, and of course hopeless or feeling helpless. And so these different stressful events are combined with feelings of loss. And imagine it like little indicators: I need help, I want help. And so there's signs of distress that invite that help, and anything the person at risk says, does, or make you feel something is off might be an invitation. So accept these invitations, follow your intuition, and explore the meaning of the things that you see and hear. So kind of second step here is, why ask directly about suicide? So you're exploring these invitations, and then it's time to ask, are you feeling suicidal? Do you have plans to kill yourself? And you want to know the answer, one, It says you don't think badly of the person, you're just saying it in a very non-judgmental way. It clearly says that suicide is important, it needs to be addressed. And if the person is not thinking about suicide, it still shows that you care. So then once you start moving it towards suicide, if that is what they're feeling, ask them more and explore that with them. Uh, what is their story? What's making them feel suicidal? And really hear that story and connect with the suicide. Once you start hearing their story, you might notice different reasons that they want to stay alive still. It might be a family pet, or their job that they do want to like reach other milestones, and so there might be a lot of dread of things never getting better. You know, their divorce happened, and they just can't overcome that, or the death of a child, and just some things that they think are pointing them back towards death in the past and feeling alone. And so there are those small little glimmers that you'll want to catch on to where there's some uncertainty. And they're a little bit more present moment because they're uncertain about right now. And if you're engaged with them, you're hearing them and supporting them in these reasons to live. And so kind of turning them towards life and that they have reasons to live. And once you are agreed that the person does have enough reason to want to live, you can start to help them develop a plan to feel better. And it might not be, you know, sky high planning. It could be something really simple of just like, let's stay with somebody for the next 24 hours, like have somebody come over and stay with you. Oftentimes, I think we're under the impression that if someone's feeling suicidal, we have to go into like crisis mode, but there are different levels of intervention that can be required. So you're developing these plans with them, and then you find what those action steps are and help them to take those action steps. And this is beginning to point them towards life and the future and feeling supported, so they're not so alone right now. So here are a few more details about developing that safety plan. This is something that'll come near the end of your conversation. You don't want to rush this. You want to make sure you're attuned to the person and really understanding their emotional experience. And there's a lot of go slow and be with them in that. But when it does come time to the plan, here are some things that you can consider. So in a high level of intervention, if there is harm to self or others that's occurring or about to occur, you might need to activate an emergency response. And if the person is unable to participate in this intervention, it might be necessary to have 24-hour monitoring, whether it's you or someone else to stay with that person. So in this level of intervention, you want to be familiar with the different helpers that are already in your community, suicide intervention lines, other people that have had experience with suicidal people before, and tell the person why you believe there's a need for an emergency or monitoring response. And involve them in seeking that help if possible, to have them make the phone call and to be with them while they do it. Perhaps you'll need to dial the number, but they'll be on the phone talking to the suicide hotline. And I can say from personal experience for myself, as well as other people, that these suicide hotline volunteers can be some of the most friendly, warm people that you will encounter, and they can help you work through these emotions and feelings. And you want to use the least forceful action that is still consistent with the safety plan. It's a fine balance between forcing someone to do something and because you care, at the same time respecting their right to choose and to find what plan works best for them. And so continue talking to them while you're waiting for help to arrive, and kind of make sure that help is on the way. And so that's what happens if you need a really directive intervention. At the next level, if there's a suicide plan present, ask the person at risk, how can it be disabled? What can we do to make sure this plan does not happen? It could involve like alcohol, drugs, or medication. So what is needed for you to not have these anymore? You can take them to a pharmacist who will take pills. If there's a gun involved, the police will take guns. And if there was prior suicidal behavior, what have you learned that might help you stay safe this time? You survived before, you can survive again. And what can we do to help keep you safe? And if there are mental health concerns, potentially bipolar, treatment-resistant depression, major depressive episode, and so on, What have you learned with your mental health that can help you feel better for now? Um, Remember that there are a lot of different types of help, and that anyone in your social network or that of your friend can also be of help. And if it's not, and then going down the spectrum of necessary intervention, if there's a need for important situational changes, what can you do to help change that situation a little bit now so the person feels like there's some movement forward in a situation that's exceedingly difficult? Perhaps, it's hard to say without specifics, but the person is feeling really cut off and alone and like they're never gonna have an intimate partner again. And so maybe encouraging and being with them that you're going to help them in their dating life. And something as easy as at some point, like, how about this weekend we'll sit down and we'll fill out a dating profile for you. And then also really focusing on their strengths. What are some things that you are really good at, and how can we use your strengths to keep you going right now? And reminding them of their resilience, and perhaps they're very good with words, and so getting them to write down their experience, or maybe they're really into art, and so helping them to express their depression or their suicide through their favorite artistic medium. So it's kind of a scale of different levels of intervention. Just want to see if there's anything else I'm forgetting here that I want to make sure to include. So again, just to kind of review, one way of really working with people is that you're looking for these invitations, these indicators that somebody might be considering suicide, whether it's in their actions or their words or the different behaviors that they're doing. And then you explore those invitations with them and, ask more, be curious, be present and be curious. And then eventually, when it comes time, when it becomes pretty apparent, asking directly about suicide. And the more directly you can ask, the better. Shows that you're taking it very serious, you're not embarrassed to ask about suicide, that it is a part of the human experience, and you're kind of helping to normalize that it is okay to talk about it. And so then they might really open up and start to share their story, and to really listen and to pay attention for those emotional moments when they might be reconsidering something that is keeping them alive, and to amplify those in some ways and eventually build on that person's own desire to stay alive. Perhaps it's to see their child graduate from school or whatever that is. And so as you're making that transition, to support them and develop a safety plan for now. What can we do to get you through today, tonight, to this weekend, and eventually however far out that person can manage, with the goal in mind of seeing their child graduate, for example. And once you develop that safety plan, make it very concrete and have action steps that you can take together, or that person can take, and to really confirm those actions that they're going to be done, and so you can both move forward. And just acknowledging that conversations around suicide can be very difficult for both the person listening and the one that is experiencing all of these feelings and doubt and hopelessness. So be gentle with yourself and with them, and definitely take time to debrief and potentially see a professional yourself. And I think that covers a lot of good information. Feel free to reach out for any extra questions or support. And again, my name is Matthew Breuer, and I'm an associate marriage and family therapist in downtown San Francisco, focusing on bipolar disorder. And so that depression phase can sometimes have suicidal stuff going on, and I will do the best I can to help support you or anyone that you care about. So please do hold on and reach out for life and for support.